tell your friends to tune in, and as I often say, make sure you share the link. I'll also share the link on my platform. Share it to as many friends and groups as possible. Let's get blessed together. So I don't want to take much of his time. I want him to tell us his name, to tell us the name of his ministry, and then as we go along, you will understand how amazing he's doing the work of God, because I understand he has quite a number of churches he's overseeing, but as I know, we'll get to know that as time goes by. So man of God, Karibu, greet the people of God, greet those in Uganda, send them your greetings, yes. Welcome.
Thank you so much, my host.
Thank you.
I want to thank God so much for being in this studio of Jtv. Is it Judah?
Yeah, Television. Judah Television, yes.
Yes. I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome.
I'm a Ugandan.
Okay.
My name is Johnson Lubega.
Okay.
A Ugandan name.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm born in a place called Mukono.
Okay.
Mukono is just the town before you get to Kampala city.
Oh, okay.
That is like 15 kilometers from the city center.
Oh.
It is on this road that comes from Nairobi, Kenya, through Jinja. Then that next town, it's called Mukono.
Okay.
That's where I'm born.
I think I need to visit that.
You do.
Okay.
You do. It's now growing. It was a small town then, but now it has grown.
Okay.
And I'm a married man. My wife is called Dr. Edida Lubega. We have 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys. The three are in Nairobi here. They are studying here, and also my wife stays here. She works here.
Okay.
In an organization called it's a Canadian organization with its headquarters at the village market, Eaton building. Yes, I was born 54 years ago. That was 1967. With by a man called Mr. Matovu and his wife Joyce. They are my parents, but now they are late. Yes, we were born 4 also in the family. 2 boys and 2 girls, and I was the first born. Yes. My story is just a long story. My father was a contractor with buildings, and in Mukono there is a university called Uganda University of Christian University of Uganda. That university was first a training for reverends, Church of Uganda, Anglican Church. But now that university, before it became a university, my father was one of the people who built it. Yes, and many other major schools in Mukono district. He was among the constructors. Yes, and but when I was 7, things were going on well until when I was 7. When I was 7, one day my father came back and he told us just all of a sudden that we are going somewhere. We are leaving this place and we are going to another place, a place where we were born and where we had grown. And we had 2 pieces of land there. Previously, before that day, our house had burnt twice, with everything burning to ashes. And we could not even understand what was burning the houses.
Oh, you could not understand the reason. It was not like somebody was starting the fire.
No, not somebody, but we do believe that it was connected to witchcraft.
Okay.
Because our grandmother on the side of our mother was involved in witchcraft. Yes. Okay. And so we understand that, especially after getting born again, we began to understand that this was not normal. It was connected to witchcraft.
Yes.
So we lost everything on the 2 occasions of the burning of the houses. Nothing was spared, even a mat, even a basket, everything. We could just go back to zero. Then he buys other things because he was working, and then he built another house, and then after a few years it caught fire again, and then, but that time he had built a third house now. When he came back at around, I remember it was around 3 p.m., and then he told us we are going somewhere. So we could not argue with him because we were young, and our mother was young, was also young, because those days they could marry at 16. Yeah, so so he took us to the taxi park, and we didn't have a luggage because we didn't have a lot of things. He took us to a shamba of tea, a tea estate, and he tells us that he had lost the job. He had lost everything he was using as for construction, and we could not figure out how, and he was not explaining how. So he takes us to a tea plantation, and there we hardly had food to eat. We were given one room, the 6 of us, the children and the mother and the son, the father, so we could just stay in that room. So there was no plantation for us to harvest food. There was nothing. By then, in Uganda, that time was Amini's era, around 1974, and my father was getting 15 shillings from the tea plantation for picking tea. But my mother did not enroll to work in the tea plantation, so she could stay at home.
So the 15 shillings was the one supposed to take care of all of you?
The 6 of us, throughout the whole month. Remember, we buy everything. But I remember they could wake up early at around 3 and go to the neighboring villages to work for food, such that by 7, by the time they are going to the official work, especially the father, they have already brought the food. They have worked for almost during the night. The people we found there, they educated them of how to go about it. So now we used to eat like that. But then few months later, my father and my mother, because they were drunkards, they could drink and fight and go naked and run around.
And you're just there, all of you just there, watching this, and you are young.
Watching and being laughed at. It was painful, and we were not going to school. So when they fought hard, one day our mother just left us there, and she went. She went away, and we never saw her until when we were around 20 years old. That's when we saw her again. She went and married another man, got 4 other children. From there she went to another man and had another child. We were all now 9 children from the mother. Then she died like that. So we were left with this father who could just go out to work and pass via the bars, drink, whether he has money or not. He could come back every single day when he's drunk. And sometimes when he could buy meat for us, especially when he gets the salary, he could come back home with just a banana leaf which contained meat. When the meat got he dropped on the way. When he buys this maize flour, he comes with a polythene bag. When the flour is already in the roads. So that's how we were. And then we left the tea plantation. We went to the village around, began to stay around with people, began to do some different menu works. digging around, slashing for people, collecting stones, working in these factories there is I don't know the name, but the factories that do not make real sugar, but these ones in which they make liquor.
Okay.
Yes. So we could just go there and do some work, and they give us some money. Sometimes that man could give us some old clothes and we put on, and then we could survive like that. But then we began going from kitchen to kitchen of rich people. They could host us in a kitchen, and we stay there for 2 years, and then the owner says, I'm demolishing it, I want to build another one. And then he sends us away, and then we find another one. He hosts us in another kitchen, leaking and with holes, and sometimes with no doors. Remember, we don't have a mother, we are there, 4 of us. Until some sympathizers took me as me, the elder of those other 3. She took me to become her son, and she promised she would take me to school. But by that time I was 12 years old and never visited a school at 12 years. Then she took me to a nursery school. When I was in primary 4, she passed away. I was left now in the space. I skipped a year without going to school. Because no school fees, and the person who was
taken you has passed on.
Yes, had passed on. So I stayed there. I came back again to my father, and he was helpless. Then another man on the village took me up. He said, this boy, I remember this boy, he was the first in P1, P2, P3 and P4. He has been the one leading the classes. So I better take him up and I will sponsor him. But this man had a hotel, he had a bakery, he had cows, and he also had other things he was doing. So he takes me to his house. He promises to buy me a mattress, because by then I had never slept on a mattress, never covered myself with a blanket. I don't know anything about bed sheets, nothing about shoes. So he takes me and he promises to buy me all those things. So I go happily and I get there. Kumbe is looking for someone to work in his hotel.
He just wanted to use you.
Yes, he wanted to use me. He was looking for someone to help in the bakery. He was looking for someone to fetch water and the elephant grass for his zero grazing cows. So he took me. There was no mattress he bought for me. There was no blanket, nothing. But he took me and he put me in the place where they kept the bread, close to the bakery. So there I didn't need a blanket because the place was ever hot. I could just fall on the
and there's enough room
and I just yes,
no need
I
to
eat some
cover.
bread and I sleep. But he managed to take me to the next class, to school. Yes, he took me to the school. He paid the school fees, much as it was also they could chase me back home to collect the school fees. And I was doing everything but not paid, only for school fees and the uniform and that.
And let me interrupt you a little.
Yes.
Maybe what was happening to the other siblings? Because you were working, and then what about the rest?
The rest suffered so much, except the boy who got a retired judge, who also helped him to go to school. But the girls did not go to school at all. They grew like that, and they eventually got spoiled. They had children before we even thought of getting married. When you look at their children, they are very old. They are very big children.
Because they started
They
early.
started early because they were exposed.
Okay.
They had no protection. Father could not protect them.
Okay.
So that was their story. That's even now I'm just helping them
Okay.
because they could even not manage the marriage.
Because they entered it too early.
Too early,
Not mature, ready
not
for
mature,
it. Okay.
and they suffered a lot. They could not be good wives. So men could just use them, have children out of them, and then push them out.
Yeah.
Actually, one of them died.
Oh, sorry for that.
Died of AIDS.
Mm.
Yeah, she died of AIDS in 2001.
Okay.
There was only one, and then the other ones from the other men.
Okay.
This gentleman paid the school fees, and every time I come back at home, I go straight to the hotel. I'm one child who studied without a textbook, without time to revise the books,
Anything.
but only to get something from the blackboard when the teacher is teaching, and that was all until exam. Because
no textbook, no nothing. You are
no
depending
nothing.
entirely on what the teacher is teaching.
Exactly. Even what I've written in the books, I have no time.
Okay.
Because when I go back home,
You have to
I
work.
stay in the hotel up to late hours.
Okay.
And I wake up very early to fetch water, to do this and that, to leave the cows when they have some grass and water. And then I go like that, week in, week out, month in, month out.
Okay.
But then it did not stop me from being the first every term.
No.
Every time we ended, I was always the first.
Okay, that was
So
wonderful.
God was already with me.
Amen.
And during that time, I did not know anything like Sunday. Going to church, there was no Sunday for me to go to church.
Because you are working.
Because that was the day the workers in the hotel were given an off.
Okay.
So me, I would stand in for them, be the cashier, be the cook, be the waiter, and clean the hotel and everything.
So there is no off for you.
No off for me, except when I'm at school. And I loved football. And the way I could spare time for football, it is just interesting. Because sometimes I was supposed to go after school and dig in the garden, either plant cassava or plant sweet potatoes. Now I had a friend with whom we were in class. I would do, because even in P6, P7, I had no shoes. So we were dirty all the time, all through. So I could ask him to accompany me to the village, because our village was near, into the garden at lunchtime. We dig, so that when time for football comes at the end of the day, I will pretend as if I went to dig, and they will find the worker there. Yet I was doing football.
Okay.
And I did that. They could not get me, people at home.
Okay.
That why did you come late? I would tell them, you see, when I went, I finished classes, I went to dig.
Okay.
And when they go in the morning, they find really the work is there. And then I escape like that.
Okay.
So it was, we suffered a lot.
Okay.
We had jiggers in the fingers because of the dirty places where we stayed. We had jiggers in the feet. We had lice in the head. I mean, we were like that. Bathing was a taboo. I remember it was only a rich man on the village who bought a TV, 14 inches, black and white, during those years of 80s. And in order for us, in Uganda, the TV could start at 6 and close at 10. So in Uganda, So this gentleman was a brother of the other one who had taken me over to look after me after the first one died.
Okay.
So they were brothers.
Okay.
So before the other gentleman took me over, and the first one had died, and I went back home. So that was the time this man bought that small TV. So in order for you to go and watch Jimmy Swaggart, those days Jimmy Swaggart was showing in Uganda and other programs. So in order for you to enter his house, you had to slash the whole compound. You had to fetch water for them. You also had to bathe. So that was a time for us to be put in a corner to at least to have a shower. Otherwise we could not have showers. We were sleeping and waking up like that. That's why we had lice, we had jiggers, we had everything. So one time the lice were too much in my head, and I put paraffin. The head began to pain me. It was like fire on my head.
Like somebody had put on fire on your head, and it was...
Because before I did that, we could just scratch, and then the styles of hair these days, we could just make them with our fingers like this. We have nothing here, nothing here, and something here, because of scratching the pains there. So, but all the same, we survived like that. Something that amazes me, we were not getting sick, much as we were exposed to everything.
God in a way just protected you.
Yes. Because when we wanted to eat, we could visit those places where they are doing the last funeral rites. They cook in Uganda because of that. Is it a party or what? But the last funeral, they kill a cow, they slaughter this and that, and there's a lot of food. So you go there, but you are not invited. You go there and you are dirty. You can't sit among people. You go there and you sit where they put the plates that are used. They bring them with some leftovers.
So you now feed on those.
And when they bring them, they pour them in the waters where there is soap. But you manage to fish some food there, some bones there of chicken, and you eat.
Wow.
But you could not get sick. You could just survive like
with
that, and you stay. So that was life in the village. That was life like that. But when I went to this gentleman, I could eat some food, because sometimes I could cook it myself. I could eat some bread, much as I'm not given, but I could just, since I'm sleeping where they are, I could just eat 2 or 3 of them. I could take some raw milk, because I'm the one making it, but I'm not supposed to drink. But I could just take a sip at least. And then when they get you, they beat you seriously.
Because it's like you are stealing.
Because you are stealing. So there I was, and when I got into secondary 2.
Maybe just a minute before you get into that.
Yes.
Maybe for those who are watching, friends, the reason you can see I'm not interrupting Bishop here is because this is the transformational talk. And we are going to come to the point where now it all turned around. There's somebody who's watching who's probably hopeless. There are people who are in your past story. They are where you are. So this story is giving them hope. And that's why you are seeing I'm trying not to interrupt him, because I now want us to come to the place. We will come to the place where it all changed. Why is he sitting here today? He's a bishop. He's overseeing so many churches. So if you're out there and you've been having an excuse, I don't think God can use me, we have evidence here today. It doesn't matter your background. I hope you are getting these stories from the way they were going to slash in order to just go in and watch a black and white. Nowadays we have colored TVs and we take them for granted. So I'll just allow him to continue, but don't forget the purpose of this, that if you're watching, know that even for you, your story can change. God can change you. I'll get to ask him where it all changed, and then he'll also share something about fatherhood, because I believe they went through this. And you said your father was drinking, he could come home, the meat has fallen on the road, and your sisters, they messed themselves up because of that. So that also shows us the importance of having a father.
Exactly.
So maybe we'll also share about that later on, because we have so many young men, so many young women who don't have a father figure. They are not submitted to any authority, and that is also causing the decay we are seeing in our young people. They are doing whatever they want. Yeah, so back to your story, you are milking the cow. When you were caught, you are beaten.
I'm beaten, yes. I'm punished. I can stay some days without eating because I was caught taking some milk. And maybe now I come to that place where when things began to turn around. I was in secondary 2, and there was this girl who we had met in primary 7. And she became my friend. Now, because I didn't have essential things that I needed for school, even when I was in the last class of the primary section, ready to sit for the finals that are taking me to the secondary section, you know, I didn't have. It was hard for me to get a pen if I don't pick it on the road. Much as I'm staying with the other gentleman, and he's respected, he has money. But getting a pen could take you weeks. But you have work to do at school, so you don't need to wait for a week to get a pen. So this girl, while in P7, she was having hard time with mathematics. Yet for me, mathematics was a game for me. Much as the teacher could just teach, and then I get it, and then I begin to teach others. However hard the topic might be. So this girl became my friend right in primary 7. Because as I was helping her, she was also helping me with a book, with a pen, with a pencil, with a rubber, such things. So we became friends. Now when I finished primary 7, I got a first grade, and I was the best in the school. Because my first grade, much as there were other 2, mine was the best in terms of grades. So many better schools invited me to give me a place, but I could not afford the school fees. So there was a secondary school that was starting, just starting at that, in the compound of that primary school. And in the buildings of that primary school, they just separated it 2 or 3 to make them a secondary school. So I ended up, circumstances had it that I continued that very circumstance. So even this girl, her sister was a medical personnel, but I think she didn't have enough money, so she sent the same girl in the same school. So we are in the same school, that is beginning, senior 4 dropouts are the ones that are teaching us. So you don't see any future for sure. When you look at the teacher, how he's dressed, his hair, and
there is no future.
His stories, the way he speaks English. You know, in the whole primary, we were not speaking English. So even here in secondary, the teachers are just like primary teachers. Even primary teachers, if they are well trained,
they are better.
They are qualified. These ones were just nothing, but they were the ones teaching us, except the headmaster, who had a diploma. So we are there with this girl. We are studying. She happens to come one day. And remember, we are not having shoes, even in secondary school. So she had, except for me and some other few others. So we are here. She comes one day and she tells me, there is something in town. I said, what is that? She said, there are some people who came to a certain woman and they are preaching the gospel. What is the gospel? I'm asking.
Yeah.
She tells me it's about Jesus. It's about getting saved. I said, you know, there is something that happens to us. Even when you are poor, and you are the poorest, you feel that proud. You are like, you are proud. You are like, you have pride. You are like, you are something much as you are nothing.
Yes.
So I began to say no to whatever she was saying. But because she was my friend and we are coming from the same town, so I began listening to her. And all along I had not known that she's born again since P7. Because she was not preaching to me. She was not giving a testimony.
So
she had never said anything.
Okay.
So she comes all of a sudden and tells me about the gospel, about being saved in town. And these people were coming every Sunday evening to a certain woman. And there was no church whatsoever in the area. This was going to be the first church. So she convinces me, and one day I go there. When I went there, I sat close to the door and I just began to watch like this. They spoke, they prayed, which I thought they were shouting, and they were clapping and jumping and as if they are drunk. You know, when I looked at the life of my father and mother being drunkards, I hated drinking. Even before I got saved, I said, me, I'll never drink, I'll never smoke, because they did both.
Yes.
So when I saw these people in church, they were like they are drunk, others were crying,
So
others were jumping. I said, am I coming from the same story to another one? So I looked at them, but I don't know what kept me coming. So they left this woman's house. They went to a house that was not finished. It was a house with 4 rooms, but they occupied one of them. It had no roof. So I followed them. The next time they give us a Bible. I was ashamed to carry the Bible through the town to that place. I would just put it inside the shirt this way.
So that nobody sees
down
it.
here, and I walk without anything, as if I'm going somewhere, and then I could pass by and then turn, and then I come from behind,
And
I enter
without anybody seeing you.
yes,
enter.
and then I made sure I sit in a corner, but I could listen to everything.
Okay.
I listened to everything, and then it was close. It was like close to Christmas. Then we had Christmas. But of course I could not come to the fellowship. But then the following month of January we went on coming for fellowship.
Okay, so friends, this is a very amazing story. I think we will have to put a pause there. You will have to catch the rest of the story next week. Keep it JTV. On the Transformational Talk, we'll still continue the story of Bishop. So don't go away. We just have to put a comma today. We will put the full stop next time. So keep it locked on JTV. That's it from us. Bye.